Hello and welcome to week 26 of Geography. If you look on Google Classroom for this week, you will see on days 1 and 2, you will be reading through sections 1 and 2 in the book and answering questions, or on day 2 there is this worksheet here. On day 3, you will read section 3 and answer some more questions, and on day 4 there is a test. In this video, we will be having an overview of the countries mentioned in sections 1 and 2. There is an IXL this week about countries in the Middle East where you will need to do some reading in the IXLs and fill in the blanks. Section 1 in your book is about the countries called the Republics of the Caucasus. This is a group of countries. If you remember a few weeks back, there is a mountain range in the Middle East called the Caucasus Mountains. So these countries are all located in that region of the world. Armenia is the first country you will look at on day 1. This country sits on many faults or cracks in the Earth's crust. This was the first country to make Christianity the official religion of the entire country. This country is landlocked, which means it is not touching any seas or oceans. It is just surrounded by land. In this country, farmers grow wheat, fruits, and vegetables, but the economy is very poor due to war. Georgia is the second country you will read about in section 1 on day 1. Now, in America, we have a state that is named Georgia, but there is also a country named Georgia. The capital of Georgia is Tbilisi, and it is also the largest city. Natural resources in Georgia include copper, coal, manganese, and they have a little bit of oil also. The rivers in Georgia give the country hydroelectric power. Many people in Georgia are skilled cooks. Each region of the country has its own unique spices that they use in the food there. The third country you will read about on day 1 for section 1 is called Azerbaijan. This country has 2 separate parts because Armenia took over some of its land. If you look in your book on page 512, you can see a map of this country and how Armenia splits it into 2 different sections. They also grow crops here. Cotton and tobacco are grown as cash crops, which means that the country grows these crops for the purpose of selling them to other countries. Azerbaijan is also by the Caspian Sea, which is home to the fish called sturgeon, and they get caviar from this fish in the Caspian Sea. If you notice these black things here, these are fish eggs, also known as caviar, and it is a delicacy that people like to eat. Also in Azerbaijan, there are skilled craftspeople who weave colorful threads to create rugs or other textiles, and you can see here, there's all these different strings, and they eventually weave it into this beautiful rug. Section 2, which you will be going over on day 2 of this week, is about the countries that I like to call the stands because they all end in stan at the end. So the first one is pronounced Kazakhstan, the second one is Kyrgyzstan, there's Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan. And this one is the longest, but if you sound it out, Turkmenistan, you should be able to say that country. And you can look at the pronunciations of these words, these countries, on page 515 in your book, which is where this section starts at. In Kyrgyzstan, the traditional home of the Kazakhs is the yurt, which can be easily taken apart and moved. Here in this picture, you can see a yurt. It is hard to grow many crops here because the climate is very harsh. 40% of the people here in this country live in cities. There are 2 official languages, and this country has deposits of mercury and gold. You will also learn in this section about Kazakhstan. This country has a lake which is very unusual called Lake Balkhash. It's unusual because half of the lake has salt water and half of the lake has fresh water. In this picture here, you can see the two different sides actually are slightly different colors. The center of the country of Kazakhstan has steppes. If you don't remember what steppes are, you can look at page 515. We talked about steppes several weeks ago. It's a type of land formation, and if you don't remember what they are, you can find out what they are on page 515 when you do your reading. Most people in this country are descendants of nomads. Nomads are people who move from place to place while they raise their animals. So their animals, depending on what season, will move around to find the fresh grass and food and good water to drink, and the people will follow the herds of animals around. A third country you will read about in this section is Tajikistan. This country has many mountains and actually is home to the highest point in Asia called the Ismail Samani Peak. Agriculture is very important in this country. They grow cotton, rice, fruits, and these crops are all watered by river valleys. However, in 1992, a civil war broke out in this country between two rival clans, and this war really damaged the economy. Uzbekistan is one of the world's largest cotton producers. However, they've grown so much cotton that they've used too much water from some of their rivers. There is also a controversy in this country because they use child laborers to pick some of the cotton. You can see in the picture above me that this girl who is picking cotton is very young and should be at home or at school, but instead she is forced to be picking cotton. Most people live in river valleys and oases like you see in that picture there. An oasis is a green area in a desert that is watered by an underground spring. As you can see, there is a nice area of water, but surrounded by that is pretty much just desert. So the people congregated and lived near the water, and that is true today. Because who wants to live in the desert? Turkmenistan is larger than Uzbekistan, but has way less people. Why do you think this is? Well, the reason is because 85% of the land is desert. This desert has what's called black sand, which is just darker sand than what you would normally see. Also, underneath this desert has natural gas deposits. In this country, raising livestock is very important. The Soviet Union forced nomads in this country. If you remember from a couple slides ago, nomads are people who used to move around. They forced the nomads to settle on land and have farms instead of their traditional lifestyle. So this was an introduction to what you will be digging into more in your book as you read through it. I know this book is great for a lot of reasons, but it's kind of fun to see different pictures, so I hope you enjoyed looking at those pictures from the countries as we went through them together. I'll see you next week.
Let's travel around the world, through ocean, sea, and land. We don't have 80 days, but oh, our trip, it will be grand. We start in North America, USA and Canada. Up north it's cold, down south it's hot, more continents, there are a lot. Let's travel around the world. South America, it's plain to see, is south of North America. There's mountains, rivers, and lots of trees. Africa is home to the deserts and the Nile River. Europe's a peninsula, I hope you're a good swimmer. Asia is the biggest continent of all. Frozen tundra up in Russia, islands I can't name them all. And down under, Australia has a desert plain, but in the water, the coral reefs are bleaching. The last one is Antarctica, it's ice, ice, ice. There's mountains and there's valleys, but it's ice, ice, ice. We made it around the world, through ocean, land, and sea. We went real fast, it was a blast. Let's stop and have some tea.